Today we're taking a look at the brand new 2026 ARC 30 and 34 from Mathews Archery. Welcome back to Mike's Archery, and today we are taking a look at the 30 and 34 ARC from Mathews, and this is their new lineup for 2026. We're going to give you a breakdown of these two bows side by side. Now with the speed rating coming in on the ARC 30 at 348 feet per second, we've also got the 34 showing 343 feet per second. Obviously, axle to axles at 30 and 34 inches gives them an overall cam to cam length of 35 and 7/8 and 40 inches respectively. Now as we look at brace height, you've got a 6-inch brace height on the 30, while you get a little more forgiveness with a 6.5-inch brace height on that 34, giving a great solid platform there with a lot of forgiveness. Now as we look at the weight of this bow, we've got 3.99, same as we saw out of the lift last year for that ARC 30, and then with the 34 advertised at 4.3 pounds. Now as we pulled them out of the box, we got them at 4.2 and 4.6 pounds respectively, so coming in a little bit heavier than what is advertised, but still one of the lightest aluminum bows out there. Now as we stripped everything down, we got them down to 4 pounds and 4.6 respectively at that point. So when you look at the draw length option on these two bows, everything went up a 1/2 inch from last year. If you're comparing that to the lift, the ARC 30 now goes from 25 on the short end of the draw length spectrum out to 30.5, while the 34 is going to take you from 26.5 all the way out to that 32-inch mark, which is great for some of you bigger guys which couldn't get into a 33. Now as we look at the switch weight option, Mathews has had these switch weight modules for several years now over different models. This is still going to use the SWX Mod, same as the Lift and Lift X from the last 2 years, so those mods are going to convert. You can still use them from a 55 pound out to an 80 pound mod every 5-pound increment, and then of course you can also get them in an 80 or an 85% let off. So that's still going to convert over on the new ARC. It just makes them off by a 1/2 inch different than the lift. Now the new thing for this year is their Comfort Z Mod that they came out with. So it's still SWX Z Mod. That is going to be their softer, smoother, more comfort mod that is going to retrofit back to your Lift and your Lift X if you're wanting a smoother draw cycle out of those. But you can also put them on these new ARC 30 and 34s. Now the nice thing is a smoother draw cycle is pretty much always nicer. If you want a smoother draw cycle out of your bow, and we thought that the Lift and Lift X were a little harsh, now I will say the ARC 30 and 34 are definitely a little smoother than that, but then you add that Z Mod on top of it, and it makes a sweet shooting platform out of these new Mathews. Now as we start to look at some of the features on this new redesign for 2026, they obviously have the new SWX-2 Cam on it and that new Z Mod available for it. You've still got all the integration that they've had in the past, plus a few new things. So you've still got your integrated bridge lock sight system as well as your stabilizer system. The new stabilizer that they're coming with this year has a 7-degree down option, so you can now get a standard straight bridge lock bar or a 7-degree down option that fits in the same slot, and so you can retrofit that also if you want a down angle bar in your Lift or Lift X. Now from there, you've still got the integrated rest option for QAD as well as many other options on the market now. There's just a ton of new integrated options that fit not only the bridge lock system for stabilizers and sights, but of course rests as well. Now they've also integrated the back bar system. So in the past you had one that bolted on there. This one's actually going to integrate into the riser a little better, and that bridge lock system kicking back is all integrated and bolted in solid. They also integrated the SCS, so you got that silent connect system that used to be an add-on to their other bows. It was an extra little piece of aluminum went in between the limbs. That's no longer there. It is built into and machined into the riser. You can kind of see it up top here, and that allows you just to hook in with their silent connect system as a pull-up rope, bow sling, cover, those type things. All are now directly integrated into your bow and not an extra add-on piece. You've of course still got your low pro quiver setup that is going to mate with everything, making this bow a complete system, which is what Mathews likes to do with all their setups over the last several years. Now with this came the redesigned limb assembly, so that gives you the new limb pockets, which also gives you a new set of limb legs. Still functions the same as in the past, slick, easy, snaps right on that lower limb pocket. And what you have now is just a different shape to make it fit this new limb pocket. so it will not retrofit to the old ones, but hey, those limb legs are still there for all those old models as well. You've still got your limb shift built into the limb and axle system, so you're still able to tune this bow just as you did with that Lift X change from last year. So you've got all the tunability, all the integration that you could possibly want, as well as their Bond grip system. If you take that Engage grip, which has never been one of our favorites, you have got their full line of contour, taper, and Engage grips, color options to match everything. You can kind of deck this thing out the way you want, and of course a B-reel grip still fits on this bow as well. Now as we get into the colors, obviously there was one new solid for this year, and that's the Kodiak brown that we've got the ARC 30 here in. You've still got that option to go with a straight black, an ambush in that green, an earth, the shale from last year, and you can get a fade to black in everything as well. So that ambush, earth, shale, and this new Kodiak brown are a fade to black option. Now as you move over to your camo options, you've obviously got your Mossy Oak Bottomland there still, a First Light Spectre, Subalpine, QU Verde, and that kind of rounds out the color palette for this year. Of course, everything has gone up in price for this year, and Mathews is no different. So now we are looking at an ARC 30 coming in at $1,359, and a 34 is going to be at $1,469. So those are MAP retails, and they have packed a lot more features into it this year to help justify that increase in materials and other things that we've seen over the last few years for everyone. Now from here, we're going to step back to the lane. We're going to shoot this bow over the chronograph, give you a breakdown of not only the Switchweight X mods, but also the Z mods as far as a speed comparison on both these bows with all 4 mod options. So as usual, we'll be shooting it at 70 pounds, 29-inch draw length, and 85% let off. So we have stepped back here to the lane, and we have got both the ARC 30 and the 34. We're going to run through some numbers for you. As usual, we're going to shoot both these bows on 29-inch draw length, 70 pounds, 85% let off. Now what we are going to do back here is we're not going to shoot everything, but we did shoot all the numbers, so I'm going to give you all the numbers for both the standard Switchweight X mod that comes on the bows, and then I'm also going to give you the numbers on the Z mod. So we're going to shoot the 30 to start with. We're going to shoot that with a standard Switchweight X mod on it. So those will be the numbers that I'm getting right here, but we have the numbers as well for a Z mod for this bow. So let's get into this thing, kind of give you some numbers where it's going. We'll start off with that 350 grain arrow, and then we'll show you the comparison as we go down through here. So first arrow here at 350 grains out of an ARC 30. Alright, so that gives us 327. Now on the respective Z mod, we got 322. So you're going to see about 4 or 5 feet a second, give or take, as we go down through here with these speeds between a Z mod and an X mod. So moving on up to a 400 grain arrow. So with a 400 grain arrow, we got 309. And then again with that respective Z mod, we got 303. So about 6 feet a second there on that one. Now with a 450. We have got 292. And again, as we look at the Z mod, 292 on the X, 287 on that Z mod is what we had. And we shoot these bows a lot together and get numbers. We don't just take the first thing that comes across the chrono a lot of times to get all these. But so you got again about a 5 foot a second difference there. Now as we look at the 500 grain arrow, and with a 500 grain arrow, we've got 278 with an X mod, and then 273 is what we had on a Z mod. So again, about 5 feet a second there on that one. So that's what you should expect. If you're wanting to change out these mods, we haven't got a chance to actually test the lift numbers and see where those are at. Now with the decibel meter, they run similar. The Z mod is a little bit quieter, but we got 94.7 out of the X mod and 92.7 decibels out of the Z mod. So a little bit quieter, which does make sense, being a little softer coming back and just smooths everything out, makes it much better feel on this bow. Now let's talk about that. So as we look at this ARC 30 and we compare it to the lift, so as far as draw cycle with the Switch Weight X, it is a little smoother. It does feel a little better. It comes over a little bit nicer. Still got a nice drop in at the back end. Now we did notice, we thought the Lift X had a shallow valley. I would say the ARC has even a shallower valley. This bow wants to go. You're going to have to shoot it aggressive. You're not going to be able to relax. You're going to want to stand on this thing to shoot it well and not collapse in the shot. Now, when you switch over to those Z mods, it definitely smooths everything out quite a bit. And we're pretty impressed with how nice this ARC feels with those Z mods. I think you guys are really going to want to try them on your lift as well. We're going to try to have a full set of those on hand at all times. So if you want to purchase those and kind of mess around with your bow and get a little better feel out of it. But we're really pleased with what this ARC 30 has done and the feel of it. So just the draw cycle, everything about it. We feel like it sits a little better in your hand. It aims a little bit better. Overall, that extra ½ inch that they added to this new bow with this complete redesign is definitely a step in a better direction than what the lift was. From feel to shootability, everything about this bow we're pretty impressed with. So, of course, dead in the hand, Mathews always as dead as you can get. No different here with the new ARC 30. So we're pretty pleased with the numbers we're seeing out of this thing. The grip, still an Engage grip. Buy yourself a B-Reel. They have the whole grip set, that Bond grip set you can get into, side plates, something. I've just never been a fan of that Engage grip, but you got a lot of options out there to switch that out and get a great feeling grip out of this bow. So overall, man, the ARC 30 putting up some great numbers. We're really pleased with it. So let me pull some arrows. We'll grab the 34 here and we'll run through that one and give you some specs on the 34. All right, so let's grab the 34 here. Again, 2970, 85% let off. Starting at that 350 grain arrow, working our way up. And again, we'll give you that comparison between that Z mod speed as well as the X mod speed. So we are shooting this one on the Z mod. So the numbers I'm going to give you first are going to be the Z mod, and then you'll see you'll hear the faster speeds out of the X mod that we did earlier. So let's get started here with that 350 grain arrow. So with a 350 grain arrow on the Z mod, we've got 319 feet per second. Now, as we shot the X mod earlier, we've got that coming in at 324 feet per second, still holding true to that 5 feet per second difference between the two. So let's see what this 450 puts up, or sorry, 400 grain arrow puts up. All right, so with your 400 grain arrow, that is coming in at 300 feet per second. That's with the Z mod. So with a X mod, you're seeing 307. So about 7 feet per second there at the 400 grain. Now let's see what a 450 does on this bow. So with a 450 grain arrow, we got 283 out of the Z mod, getting 290 on an X mod. So again, about 7 feet per second there. Now as we look at a 500 grain arrow, we are getting out of the Z mod with a 500 grain arrow 269. And as we shot it earlier with an X mod, we got 275, about 6 feet a second. So exactly holding true down the line, keeping performance all the way through. As you get heavier, you're not really losing any performance difference between the Z mod or your standard X mod. So overall, some really nice numbers out of the 34. Now as we look at the decibel meter, on the Z mod we got 93.4 decibels, and with an X mod we got 94.4. So a little bit louder, a little bit different there. Again, exactly what you would expect. So from there, as we shoot the 34, as we look back at the 33 Lift X or the 33 Lift, basically the same bow, we always thought that the 33 just shot harsher, even was a worse draw cycle than maybe even the 29.5. And we felt that the 29.5 was the better feeling bow. That is not true on the 34. The 34 is a fantastic feeling bow. And you put these Z mods on it, this thing is butter smooth. Comes over so nice. You'll probably see it, as I was shooting the 30 with an X mod on it, you'll see it drop in there on the back end. Now with These Z mods on this 34, it rolls in there just super smooth, no drop off at the back end. So if you're looking for really smooth and a great feel, now it feels good on the X mod too, so don't get me wrong there, but these new Z mods make this an even better feeling draw cycle. Comes over so nice, sits in your hand. Again, we feel the same, the 34 to the 30, whatever they did, that extra inch, half inch that they added to that axle just gave a better geometry. Whatever it is, it feels better, it holds better than we feel the lift did. Overall, we think this is a step forward from the lift. Sometimes you get these bow companies that just make adjustments and make changes just to be making changes, and sometimes you get a worse feeling bow and they go backwards sometimes, but that is not the case this year. We don't feel that with the Mathews ARC stuff. These bows are pretty sweet. We're really impressed with how they move forward. Again, dead in the hand, holds great, everything you expect out of a Mathews, and maybe even more for this year. So take a look at the new ARC series, whether it be a 30 or 34 that fits you the best and feels the best, but a ton of new features, ton of awesome stuff in these new bows. Stop in the shop, shoot them, give us a call so we can get you hooked up with a brand new ARC 30 or ARC 34.